friends, my name is Jana Eubank, and here on my channel I love to create scrapbooking process videos using all of the beautiful collections that are out there, but I also really love my older supplies as well. So today we're going to be doing some stash busting by pulling out an older collection to scrapbook these photos of my husband and I 6 years ago on our 20th anniversary when we went to Disney World without the kids. We had so much fun. Now, while we were there, we stayed at the Wilderness Lodge, which was beautiful. And so I was looking for a collection that had some beautiful wood grains, but also a splash of color. I found this older collection from 2017 by Jillibean Soup called Farmhouse Stew. And it's perfect because it has this gorgeous wood grain pattern that I'm going to be using as the base of my layout. But the B sides of all the other papers have some fun, bright colors, which again goes along with the bright colors of Disney World. And then again, in my photo of my husband and I am wearing a bright orange shirt. So I think that will tie in well. Now, if you've followed my videos for a while, you know that I organize my supplies, my newer supplies, by collection. But as I start to use them a bit, I will divide up my supplies into color families that I will then incorporate with my stash to build layouts later. So after I found these papers, I went to my colored embellishment drawer in the bright section and I picked out several embellishments that I might use with these papers. So that's what I was showing you at the beginning, were all of the supplies that I had pulled for this layout. Now I'm ready to start building this layout, and you can see that I matted each of my photos on two different pattern papers. That's because the yellow paper looked really great with the photo of my husband and I, but the photo at the lodge, or the inside of the lodge, had a lot of yellow tones in it, and so the yellow paper didn't quite look right. So I did use the coral wood grain to matte that one. It worked out well. And then for my background, I decided to pull in that green horizontal strip, which reminds me of leaves, reminds me of the forest. It goes well with that wood grain background. So those two things, the green and the brown, anchor everything. And then I brightened it up with a splash of blue on the right hand side. I also added a yellow strip, which is the same pattern paper that I used to matte that photo of my husband and I, to add another smaller banner strip layered on top of that bright teal banner strip. I'll bring some more of that teal color over to the left side in a bit, but for now I'm going to start building out my embellishment clusters. Now inside of this collection there was a pattern paper that had flowers. I love any type of floral paper that I can fussy cut and use as filler on my pages. So I went ahead and fussy cut all of those florals from one full sheet to use on this page, and I'm going to use those 3 floral clusters as the visual triangle on this page today. Now once I have those just kind of tucked in there, I'm going over to my embellishments to see what else I might use. And I came across these chipboard frames by Freckled Fawn. I am loving chipboard frames lately. I've had them in my hip kits, and I used them actually earlier this week on a layout that I did for hip kit, and I will share that on my channel later this week if you haven't seen that already. But I have been loving doing with these frames is cutting them in half and using them as layers tucked behind my photos or in between the other paper layers that are going on in my page design. So I'm going to do that also today. I love cutting them in half because you can use them again in 2 different places, and your eye actually kind of, without knowing it, visually connects them. They add a lot of great texture to your page, and they're a great way to anchor your visual or your embellishment clusters. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just tucking them behind the other flowers to just build out that cluster a little bit more. Now the chipboard frames did add some bulk and raise up the level of my photo, and so I did need to add some foam tape behind those photos just to bring everything up to the same level, which is awesome because that foam tape actually pops those photos forward and makes them highlights them even more. So I love that. So I'm going to go ahead and place a piece of that red chipboard frame at the top of the lodge photo, and then I'm also adding one to below the photo of my husband and I. I do have some foam tape behind the floral clusters as well, and I went ahead and placed those. At first I had some of those flower clusters tucked behind the photos, but I went ahead and brought them all to the forefront because I'm going to do some more layering on top of those floral clusters in a minute. I really love this yellow frame and the little striped pattern on it, which could feel kind of modern, but I'm going to tuck a piece of that on the right hand side behind that lodge photo, and then I'm going to also put a piece of it across from it behind the photo of my husband and I. And again, I like how that really makes your eye travel across the page and connect things together even without knowing it. Now inside that yellow and white striped frame there was also this little heart piece, and I thought I might tuck that heart in somewhere else, but it didn't quite work, so I moved on from that. Now when I had gone through my color drawers, I had pulled out some neutrals. I had pulled out these gold titles, actually several title options in gold, thinking that might be a fun way to add some sparkle to the page. I pulled off that adventure title, thinking that might be a good one to use for this Wilderness Lodge page, but the gold just didn't feel quite right, so I'm going to do something else for my title. You can see here that I'm pulling out some chipboard alphabets from Heidi Swapp. And these are old, you guys. Like, these are probably the very first chipboard letters that were ever on the market. And I bought several sets of these back then, and I love them. I still have them. I love the classic fonts that Heidi Swapp did with these. And so I'm going to be using these brown ones today on my page. At first, I was going to do the word lodge in all caps. However, I realized I was out of the letter E, so I mixed upper and lower case on those. Now, I had also pulled a teal alphabet set, thinking I would spell out the word wilderness with those teal letters because I could bring the teal color over to the left hand side of the page. But I just really liked the way those brown chipboard letters looked. They just looked woodsy, and I thought, you know what, let's use these babies up. So I'm going to spell out both words with that brown chipboard set by Heidi Swapp. Now, one thing I didn't like about this is that one word was on pattern paper and one word wasn't. I didn't like how it was sitting on those pattern paper letters. So my idea was to bring in a little piece of this teal pattern paper layered on top of the photo and move the word lodge down so that the word wilderness could be moved down, but it didn't quite work, and I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to move this entire photo cluster down lower, and that will allow both of those words to land on the pattern paper layers, and I really like how that turned out. Now, I'm going to bring teal in another way, and how I'm going to do that is with these Puffy label stickers by Elle Studio. So I'm going to add one to the top of my photo, and I really like that. Now, sitting on my desk, part of the embellishments that I had pulled out were these vellum layered hearts. They have a little stitch line going down to the center of them. These are by Amy Tangerine. They're quite a few years old, and I think they're adorable. The colors match the papers, and I thought it might work because this is a layout about my husband and I on our anniversary, so hearts are a good icon to mix in, but they just didn't feel quite right. So I'm actually going to fussy cut a bunch of these butterflies from the pattern paper and use those as accents instead. So I'm going to spare you the pain, I guess, or the time of watching me fussy cut all of those butterflies. And so I went ahead and did that. And now I'm just using a little scoring tool to bend up the wings on either side of the butterfly body to add some dimension there. Now I wanted to add a bit more brown to this page, and I've been loving my border punches recently. So I'm going to punch a scallop border using this Stampin' Up punch. I believe Fiskars made that for them. I'm not even sure, but there's several. You can find scallop border punches on the market if you don't already own one. And that's a good one to have. It's a nice basic shape, and it just shakes up the straight edges on your pages. So I really like the way that dark brown looks across the top of the page, and then it just adds a fun, different shape. Especially with all of these straight edges going on in my design, it just shakes it up with that curved scallop. Okay, so here's where I'm going to start embellishing my floral clusters. You know, I fussy cut those flowers out from the pattern paper earlier, and they're super cute as they are, but they're also very flat and one-dimensional. So my idea was to bring in a flower die and build some dimensional flowers right on top of those flower clusters. So this particular die is from Spellbinders. It's currently available. The set is called I Dance, and the flower piece is the whole reason I bought this die set. It's not the main focus of this die set, but the style of this flower is just so cute. And so I decided to create or use the two smallest layers of the flowers to create these flowers to pop up on top of those orange flowers printed on the flower clusters. So that works well. I also added a little brown flower center to the two orange flowers. And then I added another brown flower center to the yellow flower on the bottom just to tie them together. Now I'm also die cutting several leaves. All the cardstock that I'm using today is from the Simple Stories Color Vibe collection. Love that cardstock. So I'm die cutting several leaves from this same I Dance set and just tucking those on top of the printed leaves, but also tucking some branches and additional leaves behind the flower clusters just to build those out a bit more and make them feel more dimensional and more interesting and more textured. Now on that floral cluster up by the title, there was a little fern leaf or branch that was overlapping the title, and I didn't like that. I felt like it was quite distracting, so I trimmed that off, and I am going to replace it with a die cut leaf just so it feels nice and well-rounded, but you can see how the green just blends in a bit better with the green pattern paper behind it, and then it's not so distracting with that title. So I wanted to bring in some sprinkling elements to go around the butterflies, and I thought wood veneer would be a great thing to do to tie in with that wood pattern background paper. So those are some tiny wood veneer hearts. I believe those are by Felicity Jane. They came in one of the kits, but I'm not 100% positive. But they look really cute, and I love those there. And then I also brought in some gems. The gems are kind of a dark orange or brown color, and I popped those on the center of each of the flowers to just add a bit of sparkle. I also added an additional teal puffy phrase to the photo, and I really like that. I'm going to finish off this page by adding some journaling strips, and I was just showing you the die that I like to use. I have recently found this die, and it is saved in my bacon. I love it. It's called Sentiment Strips. It's by Hero Arts, and I just created a Word document that is spaced out exactly with that die, and it makes cutting journaling strips really easy. So that will finish out the page. I love using my stash. I think this Jillibean Soup collection worked out perfectly with these photos of my husband and I at Disney World. Look at how cute those flower clusters turned out with the die cut flowers on top of them. And I hope you enjoyed this page and that it inspires you to use your stash. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for coming by.